Grande.
It is. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Northlight Photographic Workshops. I'm here out in Arroyo Grande, California with my good friend Kerik Kouklis for the second in my studio visits series. And we're going out for a little ride, as you can see. Alright, this is great. Yeah.
We got Zuki in the back seat.
Zookadook. Oh, I haven't put on my my old-fashioned seatbelt yet.
This car is a death trap.
Yeah. Now we don't have airbags, so we're going to try to be careful here. But we're going to go wander around, talk a little bit, and basically have a good old time out here in California. We are in what are we in right now?
1967 Mustang.
1967 Mustang. It's a beauty. It sounds great. I hope you can hear us over all of this. Oh, this is
so
great.
We live right off the Pacific Coast Highway, Highway 1.
Highway 1?
Yep, we're going to go south on 1. We actually live a little south of the town of Arroyo Grande.
Yeah.
We're almost in Napoma.
For those of you that don't know, we're here in the Central Coast, right?
Central Coast of California.
Central Coast, California. We're
not
north,
LA, not the Bay.
Right. We're north of LA. We are
about halfway between LA and San Francisco.
South of San Luis Obispo, if you know the area.
Where my dad went to college.
Yeah.
Late 40s, Cal Poly, yeah.
Oh, this is awesome.
Sadly, if it really starts to rain, we got to go back because
we got some leakage.
This car's not watertight. Yeah.
No, I think we're good.
So far, so good. But
it does have windshield wipers, right?
It does. I think they work. I haven't used them in a while.
How you doing, Zook? Zooky's just.
Whoa, hang on. There we go.
Zooky's
Got all the modern. Zuki loves a road trip. He's a great traveling dog.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. Well, it's good to be out here in California. We've been here all week actually working on a workshop that Kerik had that was supposed to be at Yosemite at the Ansel Adams Gallery, but we ended up having to come here, and he's got a show going on out there right now, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are wondering, this is we're in March of 2023 right now, and it was an epic winter for Yosemite. They had 6-7 feet of snow, closed things down, and it was pretty tough one. We're not in Steinbeck territory, but we're south of there, and it's a very similar kind of environment here. It's all agriculture everywhere, real industrial strength agriculture, you know, it's as far as the eye can see kind of thing. Kerik's just recently moved down here to the Central Coast within the last couple of years, and
you know what? In like 2 weeks, it'll be our 2-year anniversary.
2 years?
Yeah, April 2nd we moved in.
Yeah. And, you know, I'll show you a little bit of footage of the old darkroom back up there in Placerville where we used to have some fun as well.
Yeah, we did.
But it's really nice down here where he is now, and, you know, I mean, just for me living where I live in northern Michigan now after living in Detroit all my life, it's really good to have a change of scenery at this point of life to kind of freshen up the vision, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and you know, me too. I always loved living near the mountains. I mean, we were in the foothills, but you know, less than an hour I was up in the High Sierra.
Right. Yeah, well now less than 20 minutes you're
10 minutes I'm on Oceano Beach.
Right,
I mean, on Pismo Beach in Oceano.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of unexpected.
A nice change
look at
of
the hills
scenery.
down there, man.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So yeah, I love both the new shooting environment, but the weather here is awesome.
Guadalupe.
Heading south on the PCH.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen California this green. This is just spectacular. Wow, came out at the right time of year this year, that's for sure.
And it's, you know, the green here, even in good years, the green doesn't last very long.
Right.
So we've got to enjoy it while we can.
Wow, this is spectacular, though. Well, I'm here in Kerik's kitchen and his house and beautiful pad, and we've, you know, all playing aside, we've been having a great time, as you can see. We've been running around the countryside here in Arroyo Grande area. And of course, there was the workshop last part of the week, which is just crazy because I hardly remember that now. You know? So,
seems like a long time ago.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So we're here with the great Kerik Kouklis, and you know, this is going to be a fun interview, I think, and I hope, because I've been friends with Kerik for a long time, and so unlike other interviews, some things might transpire here or come out that I might bleep, or I might just altogether edit out. So we'll see. But anyway, you know, this is our second studio visit in live, and you were great. You were kind enough to be one of the first people back when I was having to do it over the Instagram back in the day. The Instagram, I sound like an old man.
Instagram.
The internets.
On the internets.
Back on the internets. But yeah, and you did one of those, which was really nice. But this is kind of what I had wanted to do, was be able to come to people's places and do this. And so, kind enough, Bob was the first, and you've been kind enough to let me be the second. What's a better surprise than Kerik here? But anyway, so Kerik's a great photographer. Many of you know of his work for years and stuff. And you know, there's a lot more to this video than is going to be just photography, of course, as you have seen. We've been out in the cars. Kerik's a real car guy, and, you know, we'll get into that too, from back in the days when he rebuilt his own stuff. But, you know, and he's also, you know, a photographer. And a lot of us tend to be kind of Renaissance people like that, where, you know how to do a lot of things. But yeah, let's just start off at the beginning, I think, is like, I don't know if I've ever really gotten straight with you, like where you got into this. Like, when was your first camera? Of course, it was funny to see that picture that your sister, it wrote on there, it says Kerik took this one.
Yeah, I must have been 4,
yeah,
or 3 or 4.
Somebody
handed
me
their camera, and I got this crooked picture of my sister.
Yeah, it's cool. So, but we're going to share that, because that's your first photographic artwork.
Yep.
But anyway, so where did it really start to solidify? I mean, you weren't a photographer by trade.
No. In 6th grade, our regular teacher, for whatever reason I don't remember, but she was gone for like a month. So we had this long-term sub, and one of the things he did was teach us how to make pinhole cameras and develop pictures.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that was when I was 12, and I'm 62 now.
So, yeah.
So that following Christmas, my parents got me a little Durst M301 enlarger setup. My dad made a little space in the basement.
Oh, serious? You went all the way. You went right into enlarging stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, good.
And there used to be I'm from Oakland originally, grew up in Oakland, and used to be a camera store, Vert Cameras, I believe, and they had darkroom classes, nighttime darkroom classes. And so once or twice a week, my mom would drive me down there. And it was mainly adults. I mean, I was definitely the youngest person in the class.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's how it started. And it hasn't stopped. And there's been a lot of other influences in between. My folks got me a cheap camera at the time. And then when I was about 14, my grandmother, my yaya, on my mom's side, who traveled a lot, and she used to take tons of slides. I have a bunch of her slides, and she gave me her, it was a Zeiss Icon Contaflex with a couple lenses, and that was my first SLR, and I was developing my film at home, making little prints, and you know, pictures are terrible. But it didn't matter then. I was just having so much fun.
The groundwork of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then you've got your cameras and you're working, and you know, we've all been through those kind of ages and things like that. But what started to get you? I mean,
serious.
Yeah, you're a California boy, so you had that growing up. I mean, you had Ansel here, you had Morley Bear, you had the whole California scene, you know.
Yes, but that's not what got me.
What got you into it?
You know, it's definitely where I'm at now. I mean, you know, teaching for so many years at the Ansel Adams Gallery, but no.
Right.
In college, I was going to San Francisco State, and there was a UC extension program that had darkroom classes. And I took some classes by a guy named Frank Espada.
Okay.
who was a documentary photographer. He actually learned to print from W. Eugene Smith.
Oh, okay. Wow. So
so,
there we go.
yeah,
You had some close ties to some.
He's a great, and Smith was a horrible person, but an incredible photographer and printer. I mean, his prints are mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So Frank taught us how to bleach. That was a big part of Smith's work, was selective bleaching and whatnot.
Right.
And so Frank was a huge influence that way. He's the first person that told me I was good.
Okay.
And it was actually embarrassing. Towards the end of I think it was the first, I took 2 or 3 semesters, these extension classes. And, at the end you show your work and you have to get up in front. And so Frank introduced me as, the next great landscape photographer. And he was, just being nice. I wasn't that good then.
Yeah,
but
that's awesome. You need that kind of stroking, that's what keeps you going.
Yeah. So, I became a really good silver printer because of Frank.
Yeah.
But then it didn't take too long. I got off that path and got into the whole platinum world.
And that kind of enters into where I kind of got to know you. I mean, I don't think in the whole time that I've ever been around you, there's ever been there's been a working enlarger in your darkroom, but it's never been working. It's always had something piled on top of it. I've never known you to be a silver printer.
The silver printing I did more recently was all contact azo.
Yeah.
So it wasn't. It's been a long time since I made an enlargement.
Yeah. And unfortunately me too, but that was kind of...
But that's coming back. It's coming
back.
Yeah,
and I think so with me too, at least maybe in some contact prints to begin with. But anyway, but that's not really how I got to know you. I got to know you more, for anybody that wants to know, I don't know, Kerik and I started off knowing each other along with a lot of other people in this world now when we were youngsters on the internets back in the early days, like on CompuServe and... the alt photo things and on AOL. And
one of the first things I remember about you was your darkroom cam.
Yeah.
And I thought, what is this dude's problem? Man?
Yeah.
I used to watch you print and
my thing behind that was that I used to see at the time, it was like early in the internet, you'd see somebody's fish tank cam or their Eagle cam or something. I thought, well, let's do something interesting.
No, kudos. I mean, you've always been ahead of the curve on that.
Yeah, and that's really helped me as far as this whole internet thing goes.
You had the first really nice website when mine was still on AOL. It was, different colored fonts.
Well, hey, thanks to Philips Media for hiring me to go to Woodstock '94 and photograph their tent of everything. And although I don't think I ever made it there because of mud, I did make it to the internet thing where they were actually taking pictures of people and
in '94.
And putting them out on the internet. And that was it. I was in, and I went home and got my first, it was like an FTP site. But anyway, it's not about me.
Right.
That's crazy shit. And but the thing was, is what I was saying was that I got to know you at that time as more of an alternate process printer. You were printing platinum, and I mean a lot of, some of the, right around when I came in, you had done a project of things that were circles and things like that. But then soon after, I became aware of your 7x17 work. And interestingly enough, we have the 7x17 banquet camera back in the background here is Corona, which is kind of really what propelled you out there, I think, in the beginning. I mean, in the early part of your careers, you got really kind of known for the big in-camera, negative, wide format, large, or 7x17 imagery.
1992, I bought my first Corona.
Yeah, okay.
Which is that one.
Right.
But this is also the one that was stolen and gone for 15 years until I got it back.
Yeah. Now there's a whole other story.
That's a whole other story. But
right.
but yeah, I mean, from early on, when I started platinum printing, 1988 or 89, I made my first platinum print.
Yeah.
There were no workshops. There was no place to look at any information. Right. So it was like trial and error.
Yeah.
Didn't know anything about paper, and it was a struggle. But I started getting decent prints and just kept at it.
So, and that's how I got to know you. And then when I finally came out to actually meet you physically was in 2006. I know that I came out to take, I was ready to go with wet plate, and I had gone through all the things, but I was just afraid to work with the chemistry. So I came out to do a one-on-one with you, and the rest is history.
That was the first time we met face to face. 2006? Is that?
Yeah, I think it was. In the end of November. Right. And I remember you coming out of your door. I drove over that, where you used to live up in Placerville, and you coming out the door and you kind of checking me out and me kind of checking you out. And after about an hour, it was like, oh yeah. Anyway,
it didn't take that long.
Yeah, anyway. Not even that long. Yeah. We won't go that way. Yeah, we won't go that far. But yeah, we've had a good time ever since. Believe me.
I'm going through it. Go ahead. I've got to.
I'm waiting for you.
Okay. wants me to calibrate the control sticks.
I'm ready.
So down in the middle to start the props, right?
Down in the middle to start the props. Take off whenever. Tell me when you're going.
Now.
Oh, there you are. Oh, this is wild. Whoa! Whoa! Oh, that was wild. There you go. Whoa!
I have no idea where you are.
I'm right behind you, following you like a dog fight.
Oh. I'm like right in front of the house.
Me too. I'm zooming down right underneath the trees. Right now.
Not the street. Oops. Down low. Spewing.
There you are. So anyway, so back to that. So then you started early on with the platinum printing, and so kind of take me on from there. I mean, one of the things is you've got such in your archive, which we'll get into later on, you've got so many prints from back in those days that you were working on, and fortunately, it was back in the days when palladium was a little less expensive than it is right now, because
a lot less expensive.
Yeah,
a lot less expensive.
I'm not sure there'd be such the volume that there is now. But
no, I wish I could recover the palladium from all the reject prints, and I could
yeah,
probably
wouldn't
buy
that be
another
nice?
house.
I know,
Yeah.
I got drawers of those as well.
So yeah, I mean, I was just figuring it out and trying to figure out how to make the prints better, and contrast controls and all that, and just stuck with it. I started teaching. My first workshop was in 1997.
That was what I was going to ask next, is when did you start?
Just two people who were friends of mine, people I knew. I'd never taught before, so
Right.
I wanted to make it easy on all of us.
Right.
And I've been teaching regularly ever since then. I've taught hundreds of people by now. This process.
So many of you might know of Kerik as an instructor, and he's been he's been teaching people for years, as he just said. But that's the thing, is that you kind of, whether you know so or not, you've kind of really been one of the catalysts in getting a lot of this stuff going. You, Christina Anderson. People from our Clay Harmon and things. I mean, you guys were the ones that were really going at this big time when nobody was really chasing after this kind of a carrot at that time.
Right.
I mean, now a lot of people are doing it, of course, but
yeah, and I was chasing after it because it's what I wanted to do with my work.
Right.
Christina, I mean, she's had such a huge influence teaching at the college level, and all the books she's put together with what she has done for that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, that's another story.
Yeah,
and we hopefully will get to Christina in the future. So
at the time, there were just a handful of people doing it in reality, or that you could be in some kind of contact with. And then it was around 2000 that I started doing the gum bichromate with the platinum palladium.
Right.
And there's a good friend of mine named Stuart Melvin from Santa Fe, and he was also a photographer. He's not doing it anymore, but he and I together sort of figured out the gum over process and how to make that work.
Okay. Now, were you influenced by, there was the gum over process been going on for years.
Oh yeah, it's not new.
But as far as like digging into the process and kind of, reviving it in a way, was there a lot of literature on that? Was there a lot of things?
How to?
Yeah, how to.
I found a couple of articles in the old photo miniature, and they were, somewhat helpful. But
right.
it's a pretty basic process.
But it's a lot different than doing specifically just gum bichromate, because you're using, you're just using a much thinner veil of coloring and things like that. So there are things that you had to pull back, and there's things that you had to that are a lot different than doing if you're doing tricolored gum.
Right, which is something that hasn't ever really interested me.
No. I understand that, but
it's always just been a way to modify the platinum palladium print.
Right, right.
And it was just a lot of experimentation. And early on, I would do 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 coats of gum on top of the platinum palladium.
Right.
Anymore, it's usually 1, occasionally 2, but as my technique has developed and what I'm after
Right.
has matured,
Right.
it's simplified.
Right. Hey everybody, this is day 2 of driving around with photographers in cool Mustangs.
No dogs today, though.
No dogs today. But yeah, we're a much quieter ride today. We're in a virtually brand new Ford electric.
Well,
What? Well, what?
it's got 30,000 miles on it, man.
Yeah, but it's virtually brand new. To
Yeah.
me, with a car with 230,000 miles on it,
Yeah.
this is brand new.
You're right.
Yeah, so it's an electric vehicle, and Kerik, if you haven't figured out by now, is kind of a car guy. Kinda. And woo, we don't want to hit a school bus. And anyway, so he's got 3 Mustangs, as a matter of fact. A 1967 that you saw us in yesterday. He's got, what is it, a 2014?
2014
Yeah, the convertible.
GT convertible.
Yeah, that one's sweet.
3 pedals. It's got a clutch.
You can lose your mind in that car. Oh, and in this one too. But yeah, so he's a 3 Mustang man.
Put your head back.
Here we go. Ready?
Launch!
Yeah, my face is going flat.
That's 75. That's good enough.
Yeah,
for
we
now.
go up to 75 miles an hour in about 3 seconds. It's fast. So anyway, yeah, that's part of our whole thing is driving around. We're gonna do a lot of our talks while we're driving. It's beautiful out here. A little bit less of a nice day today, but that's okay. California's getting its rain and its mist, which is really good because it needs it so badly. We got an update.
What did they do?
You arrest Trump? Oh, auto
Vehicle update, yeah.
See, this is the cool thing about these cars. Is that everything's like your iPhone now, so you just update the apps and... Does it ever do a cool new thing on an app, on an update?
Mainly it's bug fixes and they changed the interface a little bit, which is funny. So
It gets to be, yeah, well, you get used to it, and then it's like,
Yeah,
shit,
I know,
you know
but-
why? I know. When they do major changes like that, though, it gets really confusing. Especially if it's your same car, you know? It's like getting in the next day and the...
so when you're parked charging,
Yeah.
there are games you can play. They're like rudimentary Tetris sort of things, and
Right.
Bejeweled, I guess this is something like that.
So,
I hate these games.
yeah, but see, now you're getting hooked into it.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, right.
Whoops, no.
We need to be entertained all the time. That's what this is about.
Apparently, I'm
Yeah.
entertained when my foot's on the floor.
It's kind of funny in this week here. We've gone from the car where we were lucky to have seatbelts. Now we've got a freaking game to play while we're sitting here, you know. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, they are pretty much polar opposites, these 2 cars.
Yeah, they are. Same nameplate. That's pretty cool.
So, as I progressed with the gum over process, part of the idea was simplify. I stopped doing the multiple layers by mixing more pigments and then doing 1 layer. You know, I often have 6, 8, or 10 different colors mixed in to what becomes my 1 or maybe 2 layers of pigment.
Right.
And I can get what I want that way. So part of it is the look itself, but with all the processing, platinum, palladium the same way, I've always tried to figure out how to make it more efficient, both in materials and time. Back when I was employed, working full-time, kids were young, I would get up in the morning, coat paper, work all day, come home, print all night, get up in the morning, and, you know, for instance. So so yeah, I mean, I've always tried to fit it into my life and make things as simple and straightforward as possible.
Right.
So, and so that was 2000, 2001 when the gum started, and it's still straight palladium and gum over palladium are still right in my wheelhouse. They're my main print, media. I do photogravure a little bit. I plan to do more in the future, but really platinum and gum are my
Right.
true loves.
Now you have though taken that even to different levels. You've done the gum over pigments. The
Palladium over
plated
pigment.
pigments that you've done, and in between and in betwixt all of this, you kind of started a whole little or was helpful in starting a new little revolution in wet plate photography as well. I mean, you had quite a few years there where.
Yeah, and again, I was relatively early on, but I don't really consider myself a groundbreaker, but I was definitely one of the early ones to get back into wet plate. I first learned from Will Dunaway. He sadly passed a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Super nice guy. He was a Civil War, reenactment photographer. That was where he came from. And then I also did a workshop with France Scully Osterman, France Scully, to learn how to make negatives. But the negatives never really stuck. I mainly did, tintypes and ambertypes. And I did a lot of that, a lot of that for several years, taught some workshops, and then I kind of burned out on it. And I also burned out on, it became such a fad. You started seeing it everywhere, and a lot of it was really terrible work.
Yeah.
And, it's not like I'll never do it again, but for now it's kind of, in the closet.
Well, for you, I mean, with these processes like that, what kind of drew you to the alternative side of it rather than the other side? I mean, for me, it had to do a lot with losing our materials and things when the digital revolution started coming in, and feeling like we were going to lose things. That's when I started looking back more to more homemade processes. But for you, it was different. I mean,
I was already doing these
Right.
before the digital was a thing or a threat.
So it wasn't a reaction to that for you.
What got me interested in platinum palladium printing, it would have been in the 90s sometime. No, anyway, it doesn't matter. I saw a show of Paul Strand's work in San Francisco, and I'd never seen platinum prints before. And you walk in, and mostly portraits and whatnot, and it's like, wow, these are really beautiful, but they're different. They don't have that drama, but they're so rich and draw you in. And so, okay, platinum print. Well, what's that? And I found, at the time, a booklet that Dick Ahrens had written on the basics of platinum palladium printing. And that's what got me started. Got chemicals from Bostic and Sullivan, and just kind of figured it out and made a lot of bad prints. And the process itself has matured so much with what we're doing now with contrast control and digital negatives. It's revolutionary because if you do things well, you don't hardly ever have reject prints.
Yeah.
And now that palladium is literally 50 cents a drop, and it takes about 20 drops to make an 8x10 print, you don't want to waste anything.
Yeah.
And digital negatives is really, that's brought that to our reality. It's great.
You keep breaking it down to the drop cost.
I know.
I don't like that. Every time I hear that, I go, wow, 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 wow.
Well, it's the harsh reality.
Yeah, I know. That's the truth.
5 cents a drop to 50 cents a drop in 5 years.
So with that being said, I mean, there's lots of other things that we can do out there. I mean, with your gum over palladium, and I myself have been looking for kind of a substitute for that. Have you been doing anything like that, or you just, you've probably got enough palladium to keep you going for the rest of time.
Yeah, I'm not trying to find a gum over alternative. Although, I suggest people getting into this maybe look elsewhere from palladium printing.
Yeah.
Because I do, I have so much stocked up that for my own work, I probably don't have to buy palladium again.
Right.
I've got huge stock.
It's not 50 cents a drop to you.
No, more like 5 cents a drop.
Yeah.
So
back in the days when we bought all this stuff. Yeah, I understand.
So yeah, I'm not looking to really change what I'm doing. I've dabbled into the daguerreotype a little bit, and that's not going away. I just need to kind of get back up to speed on the process, but I have all the gear.
Right.
to do that. So that's definitely still coming.
Yeah, that will be really exciting, actually.
I'm
you know.
psyched, yeah.
I mean, I'm afraid, though, that once you start doing that, probably your come-over days might be over for a
No,
little
no,
while.
no.
You don't think so?
Not over. They'll never
Yeah.
be over. I mean, a lot of this, it goes in waves.
Well, it's true.
right?
When you were doing on the wet plate for a long time, you weren't necessarily doing the gum-overs at that time. But you
Until I
were-
started scanning them and making gum over prints from my wet plate.
From the wet
so
plates,
I had
which
like
was a
all
lot
the
of fun.
processes I was doing in a single print.
Yeah.
Which was kind of cool.
Yeah. So, you know, are you, what I wanted to get into more too was, you know, your teaching. You started teaching, you said, back in 1997, but kind of what kept that going? How did you keep going in that?
Well, way back then, I actually ran a little teeny ad in, I think it was Camera and Darkroom. There were a couple of Darkroom magazines back then.
Yeah.
I don't know that they ever generated much. But then, late in, I don't know, 1999, I got a phone call from a guy named Carlos Herrera, who used to work at the Ansel Adams Gallery. And he said, how would you like to teach platinum printing in Ansel Adams Darkroom? I said, just tell me when to be there.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So that started my long history with the Ansel Adams Gallery. The workshops had been shut down, I think, 15 years or so. They hadn't been doing any workshops.
Yeah.
And Carlos, on his own, decided to start the workshop program. And now it's booming again. They're offering lots of
It is.
workshops. I'm doing 3 a year myself now. Von Hutchins does carbon printing. And yeah, it's turned into a really, really great workshop program.
Yeah, and they're gonna. You've had Clay. Clay's been out there now.
Photo
Clay
Revere.
Harvest and Photo
Yep.
Revere, and
Yep. He'll be back
as I
in the fall.
understand, you're trying to get Mike Robinson at some point for doing daguerreotypes, perhaps.
Hopefully, if we can make that work. Yeah.
that'd be really good.
So yeah, it's, you know, it's, I'm happy to be associated with Ansel and that sort of that whole West Coast history now. You know, being associated with a gallery kind of makes me feel like I'm a little more part of it.
Yeah.
In a way. So.
Well, and as a matter of fact, you have a show going on there right now. As, you know, it's not your first show, but you do have a show going on.
Yeah, it's actually my first solo show there in 11 years, I think, and I am really proud of this show. I'm calling it Earth is Home, and it's mostly recent work from my travels over the last 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
A lot of them with you to
Yeah,
Iceland,
that's true.
Faroe Islands, Japan, 3 times to Mongolia.
Yeah, the Mongolia stuff is really, really, really interesting.
Yeah, and this last summer, I went to parts of Mongolia I hadn't been to before and got some work that I'm just really thrilled with.
It's the studio visits of cars, photographers and cars. Ready to rock?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Open air. Wouldn't be doing this in Michigan right now, eh?
Probably not.
Sweet. Oh yeah. I get used to this. Geez, even like this, it's quieter than the 67.
Yeah.
Well, this is good. You could say photography has treated you well. Rocket science has treated you well.
I was going to say photography did not pay for the cars. Photography is paid for itself.
Yeah, that's nice, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and mostly through teaching. You know.
Hey man, if people can get to that point, it's good, you know?
Yeah. No, I
Then
mean,
you try to do it all on your own like me and you become a pauper.
but you're
Okay.
a happy popper.
I'm a happy pauper for sure.
John Popper.
Yeah. No, this is great, and you know, it's all part of life. You know, I mean, it's first world problems, but it's nice that we can have fun, and
You know,
we laid out our lives so that we could do some of this in our.
no matter where you're at in life, as long as you're doing things you like that make you happy, that's what you need. You know.
Yep.
Roof over your head, food, and stuff you like to do. Or
And there is the lesson here, people. Be happy.
Yes. Don't worry.
I'm still trying to work out that balance myself, but hanging out with you every once in a while sure helps. Yeah. Keep it on the road.
Don't worry.
I know. Now that's fun. Yeah, you
haircut I got from the crazy barber down here in
Yeah,
Como?
yeah, the guy with the Trumpy crazy man.
Super Trumpy, crazy dude.
Yeah,
Well, that place is now a little art gallery.
you're serious.
I drove by the other day. It's like, oh, you know why I went? Rich Brimer from he lives in Kentucky now, but he was out here. I taught workshops for he and Carol.
Yeah.
So he has work in this gallery, and he had sent me a message on Instagram. Hey, if this is in your area, stop by and say hello. So I was driving by the other day. Oh, check it out. That's because I recognized the picture that Rich sent me.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute. This is where that crazy barber used to be. So
Hadn't he been there like forever?
long time.
Wow.
Yeah,
So I wonder what happened to him.
I don't know. He trumped himself to death.
Trump
I think.
didn't help him out.
Yeah. He didn't have good health care.
Oh,
He was on the
man.
Trump plan.
He was on the Trump plan. Here we are, up out of Guadalupe. Drove up here. This is where we've been flying and driving. And sorry, hopefully didn't catch Kerik over there. But we have been using this road to follow with the FPV. It's fun. As you can see now behind me, we are in the 2014 GT. And this thing is fun, believe me.
R4.
Yeah.
And I started with the A7R. So 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a newer one out, but
But this is your workhorse now. I mean, this
I
is
love
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's been great. Great image quality. Put any lens I want on here. I have adapters.
Yeah, and that's the thing is,
know.
Kerik does like his lenses.
Put my Hasselblad lenses on here. Put
Yeah.
anything on here.
Just finished with a workshop here at Kerik's house as well over this last week, and it was a great success. And I think maybe you should give them a little bit of a preview of the big ditch workshops here. I mean, you're thinking about maybe doing some more here at your home.
Well, yeah. I have to say, a few years ago, I just sort of decided I didn't want to do much teaching anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, I will also always teach for the Ansel Adams Gallery in Yosemite or whatever. I mean, I just,
Right.
that I won't quit. And then one-on-ones, things like that, yes. But in general, I felt like, I just want to do my own thing. And so we're in this new to us house now.
Yeah.
2 years, we moved to the Central Coast, best part of California.
Wonderful place, I must say. I do like it in contrast to the old place in Placerville.
Yeah. We're really happy to be here.
Completely different environment.
So I had enough room. This house has a 3-car garage, 2-car side, and the 1-car side I've turned into a really, really nice, for
real
me
sweet
anyway, dark room.
Yeah.
So we
we'd
held
love to
this
see some
group
of that.
workshop, first one I've done. We had 4 people and you and I last week, and it was a breeze,
Yeah.
plenty of room. So now I'm thinking, maybe I will start offering workshops on my own here as well. And Arroyo Grande, it's one of its nicknames is Big Ditch.
Right.
Big Wash, whatever. So I'm thinking it might be called the Big Ditch Workshops.
The Big Ditch Workshops. I like it a lot.
a good
It's
name.
very catchy. It's very catchy.
So yeah, and I've
We'll
always
forget
liked
that one.
teaching. I've always enjoyed teaching. And honestly, I always tell people if I didn't teach, I would have no friends. I mean, that's how I met you.
Exactly.
That's how I met Clay. That's how I met all.
Yeah.
All my closest friends are former students.
I'm much the same. It's just the way that we are in this business is you kind of love it so much and you meet other kindred spirits and it's.
And I don't even think of it as a business.
No.
It's more of a business for you than
Right,
me. But
right.
it's just.
I say
something-
business just because it is, it is my business, has been all my life.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah, but I understand what you mean. And the thing is that the people that we meet, like just this workshop this last week, was a pretty special group of people.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And
and all the time I've been teaching that group, which is a repeat from a previous workshop we taught back in November, just unusual great chemistry with these people.
Yeah, I've never been part of a workshop where everybody came back 5 months later to do the same
to
thing.
the advanced class.
Well, it was. So you know, back to the idea of, you know, your change of environment in your work. You know, I'm just interested in that. You know, I think other people would be too. Is, you know, you've moved down here, and now, you know, I mean, it's a whole different thing. You were up in the mountains before, and now you've got the beach. You've got, I don't know, you've got all kinds of things to work with now. So is that, I mean, do you feel, has it given you a new kick in your work? I guess is what I'm saying.
Without a doubt.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. I mean, being in the same place for 30 years, you know, I drove all the roads up there many, many times, took lots of photographs, took some really nice photographs.
Right.
But you start repeating, and I mean, it's like anything, you know, you want something new
exactly
in your life. So it was cool because, I mean, I'd been in this area before, but had never really spent any serious time. So once we moved here, it was like, okay, now I need to start looking around.
Yeah.
And it's been a blast. I haven't photographed them a lot yet, but all the ag fields around here, I have ideas, especially some drone work to do over those. And I've actually done a little bit already. The mandala project I did a couple years ago, one of those was over one of the strawberry fields that's around here.
Right.
So,
Well,
so yeah,
take a look at that as well.
And I've never really thought of myself as either a beach person or a beach photographer, but I am now, and it's a blast. I love going down to Pismo, taking the Land Cruiser out on the beach, and you know, chilling, doing a lot. I've been doing a lot of long exposure work out there with the waves moving and getting these really sort of ethereal images. But yeah, I mean, I think for anybody who's visually into their artwork, new territory is just exciting.
Pismo Beach. Kerik lives very close to Pismo Beach, which is great. It's the one last area of California beaches that you can drive on. So we're down here driving on the beach. It's a lot of fun. But Kerik is going to take out his gear. We're going to do some photography, and I'm going to be doing some voyeur work here of him while he's working. You have to be careful though on this beach because you can get hit by cars.
Do the long exposure.
Do the real long one. Nice.
Semi-long. Not the 15 stop.
But long enough.
Long enough to smooth it out. Yeah.
So you know, you embrace the new, you embrace the old, and that's the other thing I wanted to get to here is that, you know, we'll get back to photography a little bit. Is that sitting here is the old Corona wooden hand-built camera, and you know, you've gotten away from that over the years. You know, you're not a Luddite. You know, you're a modern kind of a guy. So, kind of talk to me about that. You know, I mean, you kind of embraced the digital side of it a lot faster than I did, and
yeah. You know. So, and a lot of it again sort of comes back to travel. I mean, I took that thing to Scotland once. I've taken it, you know, and then after 9/11, it's just become too much of a hassle.
Exactly.
You know, trying to convince somebody that a box this size has film in it and you shouldn't open it.
Well, kudos to you for even taking it in the first place when you could do it.
Oh because, yeah. I mean, well, it was my main rig, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, I still plan to do work with this camera, but I probably won't ever put on an airplane again.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So you know, in the meantime, this whole digital negative thing that was started by Dan Burkholder, and has progressed into this really sophisticated way to make negatives. It's completely changed the way I work.
Yeah.
I mean, I can make a beautiful print from a picture off my iPhone.
Right.
When I travel, I carry my Sonys and a few lenses, and I can do whatever I want, whether I'm doing color work or making digital negatives.
Yeah.
It's all there. So digital negatives has really brought back analog printing in a huge way.
Right.
In a huge way.
You've done a really good job of that, not only with the mandalas and with, you know, video, you've gotten into video, you did the really great, you know, I mean, your first, you know.
The Mongolia movie?
Yeah, your first Mongolia movie is pretty envious, you know, I'm envious of it, you know, the way you did
For somebody
that
who knew absolutely nothing what he was doing,
yeah, but
in retrospect.
You know, I do remember
it
you
came out
very
pretty good.
well delving into that, and you contacted the people that you needed to contact that helped you get through it, you know. I know that Debbie, I think, helped you do some stuff.
She helped me some, yep.
Some in
yep.
editing, and you know, you very behind the scenes, but you had all that footage that you did, and it tells that perfect narrative, so it's really good. Kudos on that.
Thanks. I mean, I'm proud of it as a first film, and I see all the holes in it now that I know a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's, you know, even for what it's lacking, I think it has heart. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a sweet little story, I think. And,
Yeah.
And you know, flying the drone over the ice skate or on the frozen lake.
Yeah, but you've really embraced that as well, and you know,
I tell people my Mavic 3 is my favorite camera.
Yeah.
I mean, in a lot of ways it is, both for video, but the stills that we're able to do with it, the huge stitched panoramas.
Yeah.
We can make gigantic prints if we want with
Yeah.
it, and the quality is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The other thing about the drone, we get to see the Earth in a way we usually don't, looking straight down.
Yeah.
You know, being a geologist, I guess we didn't mention that. I worked as a geologist
Yeah.
for 30 years. In college, part of geology, you spend a lot of time looking at aerial photographs, usually with a 3D viewer. And back then I was like, man, I'm going to get a pilot's license someday. Because I was a photographer back then
Yeah.
too. It's like, I want to do my own aerial photographs.
Right,
And
right.
so now we get to do it and stand on the ground.
It's unbelievable.
And the quality is just mind-blowing.
It is, and,
So-
and just the distance it's come in such a short time has been spectacular.
It wasn't that long ago we were sticking a GoPro on the bottom of a drone.
I
and
know.
You know, and all
And having the
video.
vibration and all that stuff, and thinking, oh my God, the world is here. We've got great video. You know, obviously, a little bit of our play this week has been playing around with the FPV stuff too, and
a whole
that's
new
kind
world.
of fun to see you wake up to that. And as you've seen, he's like a dog off a leash with the thing. Every time the battery's charged, we got to go fly. Yeah, so it's really cool to see you embrace that whole thing. And you know, and what I was going to do is I was going to get around to that now is. You've got the scientific background, you know. I mean, and the engineering background. Your dad was a mechanical engineer, and I know a lot of people that are what I, you know, affectionately call propeller heads that are really great photographers, and as well as musicians. And you have both of those things going for you as well, because you obviously, I mean, that's how you met your wife, was through music. So around. So tell me a little bit about that. You know, I mean, just kind of how that might play in on the whole idea.
The music
of your work.
aspect?
Yeah,
or
the music and you mean the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's one of those things. My mom made me take piano lessons when I was 7 or 8 years old. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I took piano lessons from Mrs. Tibby, older lady, and she was really strict, and, you know, I wouldn't call her mean, but strict. And, you know, so I tolerated that for a couple of years, and then I joined the band in elementary school and went into the drum section. And I was the only drummer that could actually read music, which made me, you know, the lead, or whatever, you know. So yeah.
'Cause you had the piano.
And then I started taking set lessons. I played in the jazz band in junior high and high school. Had garage bands I played with, and yeah, playing the drums is one of those things that'll always be with me. And then I got to college, freshman year, I joined the Cal band, and by the end of that year, Carol and I started dating. And
the rest is history here.
I was 19, and I'm 62 now, so however that math works out, that's how long we've
and
been
here we
together.
sit in Kerik Kouklis after so many years.
Yeah. So music is definitely both playing and attending. You know, I love going to live music. One of my best friends here in town is a really good musician.
Oh
Chris
and we've
Beal.
had our time. We've seen it.
Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
One
In
of our- both
Copenhagen,
our bands
man.
in Copenhagen, we went to see one time. That was fantastic.
Cool. So
Yeah. So I mean, that's it. Is it that like there's so many things to being what it is that we are, and so that's what's really fun about this, is to be able to explore where you came up with all of this.
And both, you know, again with you and your huge musical background, it blends so well with the drone work. You know,
it does. Well, yeah, and using it as you know, as background music and that kind of thing. But I'm not only thinking about that. I just think that so many photographers, it's like music is kind of this lyrical thing, and photography is very similar. And so it's amazing how many people I know that are really good photographers who are also either professional or rank amateur kind of musicians as well. And
Charlie Kramer's a concert level pianist.
Yeah, well, and Ansel Adams, you know, I mean, you know, and
no, it's true.
Yeah, on down the line, you know, generally I'll be getting friends with another photographer, and then we'll say, hey, you play musician? Oh yeah, I play guitar, I play this, I play that. So Yeah, I mean, it's just all so many things, and it's why it was fun getting to know you in the beginning, because I come out and you've got a band room. I mean, who's got a band room in their house? You know, wow, we can play music if we want.
Yeah.
You still have that, just in the other room is a band room.
Yep.
So yeah, well, hey, you know, we're going to get to looking at some prints later, but I really appreciate you sitting down and talking to me about all this stuff right now, because you know, let everybody else hear the stories. I know a lot of them. And,
Yeah, well, you were in a lot of them, so
yeah, I know.
we've done a lot of stuff together.
We'll refrain from that. So, yeah, we've done a lot of crazy stuff.
But the amazing things that have happened, the whale stranding we saw,
Oh, God.
you know,
Yeah.
that most people never get that kind of experience.
Yeah.
It was difficult, but it was
Yeah,
awesome.
and we do. Yeah, we do put ourselves out there in the world, and you know, therefore you get a lot more input, and all of those things we try to translate into our work. And you know, I mean, you've even gone down to the
got the whale tag. Yeah.
He's got a pilot whale on his arm. I mean, that was one of the most intense things I've ever been through. You know?
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so hey, well, you know, we'll take a break here. We'll go driving around the cars a little bit more or something, and then we'll get to some prints. And I really thank you a lot. Man.
Thanks,
It's been
man.
really cool. Take care.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right.